Why do people have problems?
In order for us to accomplish bigger and better things. Gratitude and depression can't coexist.
Right.
So if you could be grateful for what you're depressed about, that's a simple solution.
Ezra. Writers did this all through the ages. They would sit together.
We're wired for connections, us human beings.
Yeah. There's money being made right behind us.
And
I'm just not gonna say who. Choose.
Ich dachte, whose bar mitzvah was it? Where did it happen? Who's who's the spieler? What kind of entree is it? What kind of food is he about to tell me about?
Okay.
There's so many questions. See, this is what happens with the visionary.
Well, listen, I'm telling you, it's a good one.
I want to hear. I want to hear.
You're gonna love it. Welcome everybody to another episode of Podsitivity, where we bring you positive inspiration. I want to remind you that if you're not yet subscribed, or if you can please share and like the podcast, it would really mean a lot to me. Thank you very much. Today I have a special and dear friend of mine. I've been his friend for many years. Master coach. He used to be an EMT and had an EMT company. I don't know how much I can say or not, but everybody knows him for different things. But especially most famous, he is for his coaching and retreats. Lots of different companies that he helps. A big Asken, a person that helps a lot of people. I'm
starting to blush, Ali.
I feel like he's just another uncle in my life, but like an unconditional uncle. Like he just comes into my life and has helped me many times in my life. So this is just an introduction to get you comfortable with Rabbi Ezra Max. And today we're going to pick his mind because a person that, and this is what this podcast is all about. It's not about bringing on the most famous people or getting my opinion, or sharing my knowledge. It's about talking to a person that, of course, has wisdom and knowledge and das Torah because he's a Talmud Chochem as well, but getting a person that really has experience from dealing with people. So just that experience alone is worth billions of dollars, and you'll see as soon as we get started. So first of all, welcome, Ezra, to the Positivity Podcast. It really means a lot to me.
Thank you for having me, Ali.
Okay, now I can see in your face you're excited for the first question that I'm going to ask, and I'm going to go right to it because the audience that I have, and most of them are, it's actually all types of people, but a lot of them are Bukharim or people that they do feel they connect with my message, which is motivation, which is positivity as well. So usually I like to start with a problem and then bring the podcast full circle, leaving everybody with a solution. Okay? And my first question, Ezra, is why do so many people have problems? And you know this because most of the calls you get during the day are problems, because Ezra is a problem solver. It means it's in your name. Ezra means a help. So Ezra, take it away. Why do people have problems? And then I'm going to try to pick your brain on how can we solve it. Meaning, what are those problems and where does it come from? What are those problems? Where does it come from?
I think being human is a problem. And the reason it's a problem is because you and I are neshumas. We come from a place where we have godliness.
Yeah.
And then we get plunked down into this ungodly world, and let me clarify what that means. In this meat suit, if I can call it that.
Well, you have a pretty nice one.
And then we dress it up, kilo, because okay, that's even a story in and of itself. We go back to Bereshis, right? And so, at the basic level of being human, by definition, there's a tension.
A problem. Wow.
We're going to get there. There's a tension.
Right.
And that tension is challenging. And that challenge provokes more and more challenge.
And this is on a soul level, not even in the mind yet. This is not even problems caused by the mind. Problems like within the body.
Do you want a real answer or you wanted a fluffy answer? You wanted
No, meaning I just want people to understand this is not even our fault, basically, what you're saying. Like it's on a soul level.
So
your soul is might be having an issue.
So yes, it's on a soul level, and yes, it's quote unquote not your fault. It's an opportunity. So the problem, you talked about problem solution. I say challenge, not problem. Even when you said the word problem, I started grinning.
Yeah.
Yes, there are problems. There are lots of problems. And some of them are larger than others, but really they're opportunities. And what that means is that a challenge, if you look at something as a problem and that demotivates you, that deflates you, that just shuts you down, you're stuck. Now what? You have to work harder to get out of it. But if you see something as a challenge, it turns on the engine and then you could go someplace with it. So starting from your question of why are there so many problems in the world, which is I think your question, in order for us to accomplish bigger and better things.
Wow.
The reason for the quote unquote problem is to create lots of opportunities for repair.
Yeah, because I was just going to ask, like, when we get those challenges, most people say, I don't want the challenge. Most people, you ask them the question, do you want this challenge or not? They are going to say no. But what you're saying is that perhaps we don't get the right to choose our challenges or our struggles, for that matter, for those people struggling. But it's there as a gift to you. And the moment you realize that, then your life might start becoming easier or not because the challenges get bigger.
I'm sorry, can I say something? Yes, I want to acknowledge what you said. And as you started speaking, I remembered a conversation I had today and I started getting emotional. And it's not my style to go on your podcast and sort of go somewhere, but I think it's worth mentioning.
All right.
And there's a disclaimer up front that I'm feeling emotion remembering the story that happened this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to go there with you.
Okay.
So I'm speaking with a woman who's in her 70s, who grew up in not such a religious home, not such a religious environment. And I said, I'm curious to learn more about what you're up to. And then she said this, October 7 changed everything. I'm feeling my words getting caught. I said, what do you mean? She said, I was very liberal, very accepting, very open-minded, and everything changed. My whole life changed. I'm a super Jew right now.
Wow.
I said, I think I know what you mean, but instead of me jumping to conclusions, would you mind sharing fill me in. What are you talking about? What's going on here? And she described growing up and being an outcast and moving to a not Jewish neighborhood and connecting. And she's very involved in lots of liberal type of things. And she's involved in the outside world. And she considers herself a very in the world kind of person.
Yeah.
And everything changed on October 7th. And tears came into my eyes.
Right.
And I said, did something that traumatic, that destructive, is that what it took? And she said, I was thinking the same thing. Or some line like that.
Yeah.
So you say problem, you say challenge, I say challenge, we say disaster, we say overwhelming event. These are serious challenges, struggles, problems. And there's also some incredible outputs that happen as a result. And that when you look at it from the lens of zoomed out, not zoomed in, you look at it not like, how could this happen to me, sort of victim mentality, poor me, but rather, what's the message here? What's the opportunity here? I shared with her a story, and I'm not at liberty to tell you who it happened with, but I know it firsthand from people who were there. In Yerushalayim, on the morning of October 7th, coming home from Shul, is an American young man a balabas, who sees a Yerushalmi man in a Yerushalmi garb,
Right.
with his wife, Yerushalmi mother, with a chayal, with a soldier, standing a block and a half from the hotel where he's heading to. He went to daven with the minion somewhere else. Everybody was on alert, lockdown, I don't know all the prutim. I should tell you that the story comes from the little girl in the hotel who's asking everybody what happened, why did this man take off his shirt, and what was going on.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the punchline, let me go back. So he he sees, all of a sudden, this Yerushalmi guy is like trying to flag down a cab.
Yeah.
Cab slows down, he looks and he drives away. He says, hold on, Shabbos morning, Yerushalmi, cab driver flees. Something must be going on.
Yeah.
So he walks over and he says, Shabbos, what are you? He does an Eli move. He puts himself into the matzah. I should say he does an Eli move. He does an Ezra move.
Yeah.
He goes into the story. Turns out this young man grew up in a Yerushalmi home, joined the army. We could already imagine what that story happened there. And now he just got called up at Shabbos morning. He has to go back to his base. His Yerushalmi parents are walking with him. They're escorting him out. He's in his get-up. The mother's saying, tell him the father's trying to fly a cab. The cab driver's an Arab and he won't take a khayal in the cab. This American balabas chaps in a second. He turns to the young man in the uniform and he says, you have tzitzit? And the guy looks at the floor and the father starts going like, oh, don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
He says, no. The man takes off his shirt, takes off his tzitzis, and he hands it to the guy. Guy puts it on top of his uniform and says, I'm not taking these off till I come back home.
Wow.
The parents start crying. And as they're talking, a car stops. An Israeli man looks outside and says, Makoe, what's going on over here? He's trying to get a cab. No, keep going, Yerushalmi tells him. Keep going. He doesn't want a yid to stop. Don't tell me what's going on. No, my son, the thing. Come into my car, I'm going to take you. Where are you going? Doesn't matter, I'm taking you. Zchut shali, I'm taking you.
Yeah.
Think about the different pieces. I shared the story with this woman today. American balabas sticks his head into someone else's business.
Right.
Yerushalmi family, all the different pieces. What a beautiful achdus in Klal Yisrael. What an unbelievable, I'm shaking, result.
Yeah.
Cause and effect. Tragedy,
But beauty.
togetherness. Pain, suffering that it hurts. And achdus, Hashem's children coming together. Banim atem l'Hashem alekeichem. What does that mean? It's a pusuk in Chumash. What does that mean? Banim atem l'Hashem alekeichem. You are Hashem's children. Many years ago, I was with Rabbi Wallerstein. Rabbi Wallerstein's Zatzal. We were by Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich in Eretz Yisrael with a group of girls who came for a bracha, who grew up in non-religious homes from Russian backgrounds. And he said something I'll never forget, the tone, the vigor, what he said. He said, people think, and he was yelling, people think the Holocaust, do you think that was bad? He says, the people who died in the Holocaust, they're sitting, they died al Kiddush Hashem by the Kisei HaKavod. They're sitting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Shemayim. He says, but look around today. Hashem's crying, where are my children? They didn't come home tonight, where's my kid? He's yelling, it was fire.
Wow.
I made such a huge ratio. And this same thing is true. The pain, the suffering is mirrored in Shemayim. When we're in Galus, the Shekhinah is in Galus. That's a literal, actual reality. It's not something that's a spiritual, faraway concept. Yes, it is that too, but it's tachlis. So I'm not sure if that's where you were going with your question. But
I love it because we see beauty in everything.
and when we help each other,
Yeah.
when we support each other,
Right.
when we give a smile to somebody, when we do something kind, chesed, olum chesed yibuna.
Right.
The Hashem built the world built on chesed. That means the foundation of the world is on kindness. So you say, wait, how does a world full of kindness have so much pain?
Wow.
Oh, well, so either the world wasn't built on kindness, or the pain has a purpose to bring about kindness.
Yeah.
But the pain is unkind.
Right.
Difficult conversation.
Right. So let me ask you also, Ezra, I know you're a trauma specialist. You were trained in trauma. You were at the 9/11 attack, which is very interesting, a story for itself. And my question to you is, I'm going to share first of all a story that I had. I remember the week of the October 7 attack. It was on Friday. The only person I knew to call was Ezra Max. And I call you and I say, Ezra, like, I don't know what's happening to me. Like,
Post
my
October
life.
7.
Post October 7.
Post October 7.
I
I remember
said-
that phone call.
I said, my life feels kind of like a dream. I'm extremely afraid. I'm living in shock and in anxiety. I'm not processing yet. Everything feels very unfamiliar. What do I do? What do I, and the answer was the most interesting part, because you said, Ellie, I'm in the exact same place. I'm trying to do whatever I can. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to talk to friends, but I'm also lost. And just hearing that, and that moment, as confused as it is, now thinking back and going into that space, it's so dark, I don't want to think about it. Because Baruch Hashem, now I feel settled. But that gave me such validation. Wow, look, I have a brother that's in the same situation like me. My message all across is I try to be there for people. I don't try to tell them what to do, give them, big pieces of knowledge or stuff like that. I just tell them that I'm here with you. I understand. Let's say you're single. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm here for you. I'm another
I'm
human
married
being.
in Mitzvah. You'll be married.
Yeah, I'm here for you. That's really my message. Now, what I learned also in the past few weeks, also dealing with the loss of my friend Michal Schnitzler, I learned that most people live in their lives with some sort of trauma, something is hurting them. So whether it's losing somebody they love, it can be a parent, it can be, somebody close to them, or losing out on a part of their life that they expected, which expectations is the number one cause why people are upset. So if you think about anyone listening to this, they can see that their expectations really set up the way that they feel, and they might have, they might be grieving that part that they did not achieve yet, especially with singles. They have that expectation of how their life is going to go, and then it doesn't happen, and they feel very overwhelmed. So the question is, how do people on a day-to-day deal with their traumas? I know it's an overloaded question, but how do people on a day-to-day deal with their traumas, notice their patterns? Like, how do I go about the things that are bothering me? How do I go on? How do I live life? How do I heal it also? How do I live now in the present moment free, not having this situation stop me?
It's a huge question.
Yes.
It's a huge question.
And I'm going to challenge you if you can answer without a story. I want to hear the wisdom of Rabbi Ezra Max.
I think the way to give over wisdom is with stories.
Right. I love the stories, but I really want to hear your experience of dealing with people. What's something that you can say that you've helped many people when they come with you with a trauma, and you're a specialist in this, of something that can help them go out? Something small or little, but something extremely useful, or the most useful thing.
So I should say this, I'm an accidental specialist.
Yeah.
And I'm not a therapist. Although I've spent a lot of time helping people get into therapy, and spent a lot of hours sitting with people, being nice about oil and being supportive, I want to put in that sort of disclaimer, qualifier, if you will. And I've done numerous trainings, as you know, in different modalities and in different skill sets. A lot of our pain or pleasure has to do with how we interpret events. It's our translation of what is happening, or what should have happened, or what could have happened, or what we, like you said, expectations. We wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. We're frustrated. And I'm not minimizing anyone's pain, right? The first thing anybody will say when I'll say such a thing is like, but if you knew what happened to me, like, how, okay, I'm not wishing bad upon anyone. Let me start from there. Well, most people. Trauma is actually not the event that happens to us. It's our interpretation or our translation of what happened to us, our story around the event. So what we talk about traumatic events, 9/11, you mentioned 9/11. 9/11 was super traumatic for a lot of people, not only Ezra Max, the whole country was traumatized. America changed. The world changed as a result of a bunch of yahoos on an airplane who wanted to kill themselves. And I don't know that it changed for the better. But the point is how we translate what happened in 9/11 is how traumatic it is or it isn't. People died.
Yeah.
That's traumatic. What do you mean? People died, right? But how we translate or how we relate to the story of people dying determines on how traumatized, how in pain we are, and gives us the opportunity to either be the victim or the victor. It's very clear.
And give me the quick trick. How do we retranslate that? What's the one little thing, without going into detail of every
the
story?
quick trick without stories?
Yeah.
Kurz and scharf to the point. You got to zoom out and become a neutral observer of events. You can have different translations of what this could mean or how you relate to it, but when you're a true neutral observer, you could zoom out and be a neutral observer. So there's the event, this represents the event, and here's you and your perspective on the event, and you're neutral. You're not in drive, you're not in reverse. You can observe it.
Wow.
And then you could ask, what can I learn?
Right.
Everything changes.
Right.
And that's not a one-time event, that's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not saying that and sometimes it's not appropriate to be like sitting back, becoming a neutral observer. You need to, somebody's shooting at you, you need to, protect yourself. So the building is on fire.
Or it's the beginning of a crisis and you're just still in way too much pain to even zoom out.
There's I'll say one other part, and this is really important, and I'm a big fan of somatic healing, the somatic type work. That fight or flight response creates a ton of adrenaline inside the system. And then it needs to be expressed, either by running or by fighting. And if it doesn't express, there's this freeze mode. Frozen! But the challenge of frozen is if you're in freeze for too long, it kind of gets locked into your system. And then it does some weird stuff. It's like electricity, it doesn't know where to go.
Wow.
And so imagine somebody, God forbid, gets hit by lightning and there's no place for that lightning to go out. Now they're like, they're full of that energy.
Right.
Imagine that this quote unquote response to a threat-like event that then is stuck inside, and then it can build and build and build, and then it creates stress and
so how does
medical
the average
conditions.
Stress, medical conditions,
It
pain,
leads
anxiety.
to a lot of different
How
challenges.
does the average person on a surface level, of course there's professional help that everybody should seek if they feel that they really want to better their lives or they feel really stuck. But on a general level, somebody says, yes, I know I have this thing, but how do I let go of these things?
So many tips and tools. So I said this to somebody yesterday. Gratitude and depression can't coexist.
Nice.
It's not my line. Gratitude and depression can't coexist.
Right.
So if you could be grateful for what you're depressed about, that's a simple solution.
Ezra.
Right? Now, by the way, the response to that was, I'm not even going to say, I can't say those words, but that was the response.
I'm going to jot that down, really.
Now,
if we can take a note of that, thank you.
So that's one. The second, just being able to express when you have that pent up energy inside of you, getting it out of your system. I started running a few years ago. I didn't run for many years, and then I did it for a tzedakah tzvak, and then I couldn't run, so I was like, no, I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to do this. But what I realized was that just the running on a relatively regular basis changed my neurobiology, if that's a word, my neurobiological vibration. It sounds so fancy. I don't know what it means, but I'll make up a translation for it. That means my thinking, my whole everything. So a little bit of exercise is great.
Yeah.
It's healthy and it's great. And it comes with some deep breathing, because when you're really doing some good exercising, so now you have the deep breathing.
Sometimes
cold plunge optional. Now, right? And we could keep going. You asked me for very simple, easy, tactical stuff.
Right.
That's the simple, easy, tactical stuff that makes a a huge difference.
Right.
My phone's making noise in my pocket. I'm going to keep it quiet.
To take the body basically that's experiencing and holding the trauma
And move it.
And move it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Go dance by a chasana. You'll feel better.
Yeah.
You're depressed. For sure, go to a chasana and dance.
One of my solo podcasts this week, I spoke about change because I asked on Instagram for a few thousand people.
I got change in my pocket. Not that kind of change.
I asked them what they want, if how their life is going, if they're okay, if they want to change something, if it's pretty bad. Most people said they want to change something. So I said, wow, what are the 3 steps for me that I would do when I want to change? And to me, change was, number 1, I said you have to allow yourself, notice where you are right now, so you notice the change.
Yep.
Number 2 is get clear exactly on the change that you want. Dream on as if you're free and whatever you're writing down and that change is going to happen. And then start living the change.
Okay.
So a 2-part question. In your opinion, why is change so hard? Number 2, what's the feeling of freedom when somebody did change and they have kind of a life of everything that they want, of real discipline, because I'm sure you know such people. I believe you are one of those people that live a life of freedom. But I want to give a message to the listeners of what a good life can really feel like. And I want them to get inspired.
It's a multifaceted question you're asking me.
Yeah,
and
but I'm gonna again challenge you, if I may.
I'm
with
gonna
respect.
tell you, yeah.
I want to get like very short answers. Why is change so difficult? What's the feeling of freedom? Just so people don't get carried away.
Change is difficult because we're creatures of habit, and changing a habit takes time and effort. So that's why it's difficult.
But I really want the change.
You say you really want to, but the work that it requires to get it done, you don't want that so much. Number 2, this is actually really important. We just did you don't like stories, too bad. You're getting a story. We just ran a workshop on very tactical goal setting for business owners. And one of the things that I thought they were all good at goal setting because they're super successful.
Yeah.
In this training that we were doing, I realized that the assumption that I made that they're really good at goal setting is true, but there's deeper level goal setting that are in line with your values, with your true core needs and wants, versus I just want more money and that's going to solve everything, or I just need more profitability. Profitability is great, go get more profitability, but that's not going to give you freedom. It might actually, you're going to end up with 10 more employees and now you're going to feel like, I don't want that, right? So is your value to have 100 employees or is your value to have time freedom and the ability to do with less employees potentially? And then if you increase your expenses, then you need more money, all of these different factors. So the first part is that we're creatures of habit. The second one is I don't want to say we don't. It's challenging to live consciously. It's challenging to live consciously. And when you live consciously, it creates more challenges. Good challenges, the best kind of challenges, but challenging nevertheless. And so that was one. And then the second one is I actually wrote an article about this a few months back. It's probably on my blog, I think. It's about freedom from and freedom to. Okay. There's a big difference when you're trying to escape or when you're trying to get somewhere. And that, my friend, is a huge distinction. And one of the things, when you're anchored, when you're tethered to the past, and you're trying to get free from that thing, you're really stuck back there, man. Right. And if you're being freedom to somewhere, so now you could let go of all of that, and now you could create what you want. Yeah. And so if you think about this as like one is like an anchor that you're trying to like, right? Or you're like, I'm free, and you're running or you're driving fast down the highway. Don't get a ticket, but you get what I'm saying.
Wow.
Does that answer your question? It's a little bit not exactly what you asked me.
Right. I'm curious, what does a person that lives with real freedom feel like?
Free.
I feel like I haven't lived in a place of real freedom. I've lived in a place of unconsciousness, so I felt maybe free in the moment, but it wasn't real freedom.
So moments of freedom is great.
What does Gan Eden feel like?
When I get there, I hope to see you there, and we could talk about it. I really think that
you got my question, by the way.
I got your question.
What is a person, the 1% of people, or the 5% of people that live really free? What does it feel like? If you can describe it.
I met a younger man many years ago. He had a struggle with a child, a teenager, and I was sitting with him and his Rebbitzin. We were talking about what's the what's the approach to integrate with this young man? And I asked him, I was trying to find a way to give him language that would be true for him so that he could communicate with his kids. And so I said, so you're in Kollel? Yeah. Full time? Yes. And before davening? Yeah. And after Marav? Yeah. Real deal. I said, could you describe for me what's it like to be in Kollel, to be learning all day, to have the opportunity? I want you to know, I was mesmerized. He thought for a moment, and he looked at me. His eyes lit up. And in this very, like almost otherworldly voice, he started talking. I don't know the first 3 words or 5 words he said. It's like, Mein Olam Haba. And as he said it, there was a vibration, there was an energy, there was a feeling in the room. I said, whatever you need, I'm here to help you. I got it. He's living the dream. Right. He has the ultimate freedom. He walks with HaKadosh Baruch Hu every minute, all day, all night. That's how he lives. Right. That's where he's at. Right. That's beautiful.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
So I don't know if that's what you were asking in terms of...
Yes, I am. And by the way, in to what you're saying, and to what I'm going to be saying, is that I think it's if you want to define freedom, it's a place where your mind can go right now and write it down. And I think we've done this exercise in the past already, where you would say, create a list, write down the things of what you really want. Yes, we did this already in the past. And that really helped me. It opened up the most for me. Whenever I feel maybe stuck in life or in a bad moment, I'll try to visualize myself out of this. What's a good case scenario over here? So you're teaching your mind, you're giving that way out. Because most of the times when we're in a bad place, it's right.
Trapped.
We're trapped.
Claustrophobic.
Right. Correct.
Sure.
And it's called katnas the moichas, right? Like your mind is... So this is something helpful for everybody listening, that in any area of your life, really create a plan of something that you really want. Whether it's getting rid of that trauma, describe the life without it. Whether you want a relationship, describe the life with a relationship, how it will feel. A business, describe the feeling of that business.
Can I add 2 things to this? Do you mind? I love what you're saying. I was thinking about Udar. It's Rosh Chodesh Adar.
Yes.
Misher nichnas Adar marbem b'simcha. Do you have an on-demand button for simcha? A simcha button. You press the button, now I get simcha. Misher nichnas Adar marbem b'simcha. That means that you are able to on-demand add simcha.
Right.
Simcha is happiness, right?
Didn't think
so if it says that that's what we're supposed to do, then...
You have the ability there, yeah.
Yeah, so where's that button? Where's the on-demand, where's the channel for simcha?
Yeah.
Right?
So how do we do it? Okay.
So, right?
No.
So your idea is a great idea. It's a fabulous idea. But underneath it, I've come to realize that there's values. And we have to identify what we value. And we have to identify why we value what we value, because sometimes we value things that we don't really value it, or it's not a values-based value. So we value it. It has, we think it's valuable, but actually it's not such a good value, right? For us, I'm not judging somebody's values or not. I'm just saying it's interesting when you're thinking about this for yourself, and when I think about it for me, what do I value and why do I value it? And why do I value that? Maybe I don't value this so much, right? And that's complicated, I know, but it doesn't have to be. So I think one of the best things, and I'm almost sure we talked about this, that gratitude is an instant happiness factor. Recognizing when things are good. I think it's Rabbi Miller said, when Hashem created the world, and he said, I created the world, and he said it's kitayv, it's good world. Yeah. Right? The world is a good world. A, that means the world's full of goodness. B, it's important for us to model this behavior that we could see the good world. So I'm looking up at the sky and I see the stars, and it's a different stars than I remember yesterday, and the lights are different here versus there or whatever, and I'm appreciating the stars for a moment. I'm seeing the beauty that Hashem created, in the world, and it's so good. And there's such an alignment of the stars and a misalignment, and then some plane goes through and a satellite, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And then I have to recalibrate and then look again. And then tomorrow I'm going to look at the stars in the exact same place from the same view. They look different. Almost the same, but slightly different. It's kind of like life. And then it's cloudy one night, and I'm like, hey, where are my stars? But I could see the beauty in the clouds too.
Yeah.
And then it's raining or snowing, and I could focus on my clothing getting wet and being cold, or I could be like, wow, free water for the grass. I could save on my water bill. Not only that, there's drinking water. Oh my, and the trees are going to flourish, and
My car wash.
you actually get a car wash. It starts raining by me. I don't know about you. So when we notice all these beautiful things, these gifts, they're for free, right? I'm back to Rabbi Miller for a minute. Rabbi Miller Zatzal used to say, breathing is the greatest gift. And the things that are the greatest gift, the more easy we get to it, the less we appreciate it. Take away put your head in a bucket of water for 30 seconds. And then when you lift your head out of the water, you'll see how geschmack it is to breathe free air. It's all over the place. But you need it to survive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But so let me ask you, Ezra, as I'm sitting with you here, I feel a very positive, beautiful energy. And the podcast is called Podsitivity because we want to bring positivity.
Positivity.
If you have to define one reason why you have a good energy, what is that? Again, this has to be a short answer. Sorry. Well, why do you have a good energy? Is it too challenging, this question?
It's such a good... There's so many answers. You want a short answer to a really important question.
I want one good reason and not a story. What is it about you that has a good energy?
I think it's because I recognize that Hashem runs a perfectly imperfect world to our human eyes, number one. And number two is, I call it the paradox of being Orthodox. I'm able to hold two opposite realities simultaneously. I could see good and bad, for instance, or black and white simultaneously as being equally true. And it took me time to get here, but once I got there, for the most part, I don't get as trapped.
Is that why you have the ability to help people that much? Because you can see both sides right away? But I love the answer that he gave with the acceptance about the Hashem and the perfect world. That's very nice. That means when somebody meets you, they run into perfection. So you answered it very well.
As Chataya Dimaske, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't ever get into a negative mood or a trapped mindset or something like that. I have a great support system, and everybody should be zeichet to a support system like mine. Really incredible. Number one. Number two, I think I even told you when you called me that Friday. I called a bunch of my friends.
Yeah, you told me about your family.
I checked in. I was like, that's number one. So the ability to help others is a gift from Hashem, and I worked on it and put in. You know, let's say you get 10,000 hours. Yeah. I probably have more than 20,000 hours of actual coaching time, sitting with people. Wow. One-on-one or in groups. There's not so many people I know who have that level of I basically spent a lifetime in most of, long days and nights in coaching type of conversation.
Hey, you mentioned that your father was a Rav, so there's these things.
Yeah, I grew up with it. Yeah. But this thing of, I've been trying to redefine coaching at I don't want to say super coach, but what is this coaching thing that I do that's beyond just regular coaching? Yeah. And so I came up with an acronym, VTP. It's brand new. I'm playing with it. Okay. VTP, Visionary Thinking Partner. Visionary is because I can see possibility and probability when other people can't.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
And I'm not such an optimist. I'm a pessimist. So that's why I said the paradox Orthodox thing.
Okay.
I'm a pessimist for someone who's so optimistic, especially in this conversation.
Yeah.
I see I'm able to see and anticipate a lot of risk, and I'm conservative in risk taking, if you will. And so, but I'm visionary. So I see a lot of possibilities where other people don't see possibility. And then the thinking partner is because I like to think things through. I'm an analytical, if you will. So, and the partner part is because I really see my role as a guide. Right. I cannot solve somebody else's life. What I mean by that is I might know what they need to do, but I don't have to live their life. I can't, and I won't live it for them. What I can do is hold out possibility and
What
believe
type
in
of
them.
person would live that kind of life when they're coaching?
Codependence. That was an easy one. But the point is that I have the gift to be able to be on the inside track to watch so many people with so many different types of challenges, problems, resolve and grow and develop and evolve. And I'm talking about people, over years that I still have interactions occasionally,
Right.
and that they know that if something, speed bump, they
Yeah.
can call. Well, we got it. It's good, right? And just knowing that means they don't need to call a lot of times.
Yeah.
And that makes, everybody should have, people say this to me, everybody should have a guy like you on speed dial.
Yeah.
And I want to change my number to where you have to pay per minute when you dial my number, because that'll increase my revenue. And I don't know if it'll decrease my call volume. Some people have told me that if I change to that type of number, they'll call more often.
By the way, I have a major
Because they want to pay. You get what I'm saying?
Define having. By the way, I'm glad I have you on speed dial, and I'm glad you take my calls. Define having somebody like you on speed dial for the listeners. What does having somebody like you on speed dial?
Somebody that you can call that knows you at least enough to intelligently engage with you in a real way, and cares enough that even if they don't take your phone call that second, and even if they don't have time for you, you know that you checked in with them and they're paying attention to you and they're tracking with you.
That's beautiful.
It's life-changing.
Simon Sinek, I'm sure you know him, just said that the studies show that 8 minutes of listening, when a friend listens to you, is the way. I can't remember exactly the study, but I don't at the moment I don't remember. But 8 minutes of somebody listening to you is really all you need to get through a certain tragic event or a moment, basically. As long as you have 8 minutes of listening time.
Cool.
I think it's true.
I don't know
for
that
myself.
specifically.
Usually 8 minutes in, I feel a lot better.
I'm going to start looking.
You have an event now coming up that you wanted to talk about?
It's hot off the press.
Okay,
Hot off the press.
Tell me about it.
It's going up on the website tonight. Literally, my web guy is working on it. I was talking to him.
What's the website?
EzraMax.com.
Okay.
It's going to be / to something. On the page, you'll see it's going to be called Vision to Victory. And the
EzraMax.com.
And yeah, and then if you scroll down, you'll see it should be like the second or third thing as you scroll the page.
Okay.
It'll say Vision to Victory. And the Vision to Victory is a long time in the making, if you will. And the idea behind it is to set proper goals. Okay, let me just put this in. It's geared towards business owners, entrepreneurs, and key salespeople. Anyone who's responsible for business development / profitability, that's really who it's for. Someone who's like an employee who has a specific task type of job, who's not responsible for a business development aspect of the business. It's not really geared for them. I'm not saying we won't do something for them, but it started out actually as a leadership development, and I realized that leadership development is secondary to profitability, even though profitability is a result of good leadership.
Yeah.
So it's a hybrid. And so built into this is setting proper goals, and that's really key. And then so getting that clarity, and then solving for how to get that done. Because you could have the goal without a plan and you're not getting anywhere. You could have a goal with a plan, but you don't know how to implement that plan without that activity, that action. And then the challenge is there will always be challenges. There's going to be roadblocks, speed bumps. So people say, I'm not sure what to do. I know what I want, but I don't know how to get there. Or I'm not sure what I want, but I think I know what I want.
Right.
So if we solve for what you want, right? I want more money. I want $1 million. Guy literally told me this 2 weeks ago. I want $1 million. I said, great. How much did you make last year? I was like, I'm not sure. It wasn't $1 million. It wasn't close to $1 million. I said, how about if we help you make what you earned last year that covers your bills for this year? Would that be helpful? Wow. He said, great. I said, good. And if we doubled that, would that be helpful too? He said, wonderful. By the way, that number's not even $500,000. Okay. I said, that I can commit to helping you do. When we've done that successfully with and for you, right? I'm not doing it for him, but right? When that's done, please come back. I'm happy to talk to you about how to double it again.
Wow.
And we'll get you to $1 million. If that's realistic. Now, there's some ifs. So the idea is frame that, get to that really clear trajectory of where you got to go, create a really good plan for how to do it.
Yeah.
work on your scheduling. So this is really important. The time management strategies, if you will,
Right.
like the tactics for each person is different.
How much time?
How to get there. So you know what to do, when to do it, who to do it with, define that, right? And then create some type of mechanism of support, pre-support, and accountability to ensure that it actually gets done.
Wow.
So it's a lot to cram into a day. It's a full day. And I'm going to do hot seat coaching, which you've seen me do. It's a ton of fun. At least twice during the day. And the connections and the collaborations that will happen, because I do everything interactively. It's not just me talking. It's a little bit of teaching. It's actual doing. It's teaching, doing. It's working together. You're not on your own. And that's a huge challenge, by the way. We didn't talk about this. The loneliness factor of being an entrepreneur or being in a sales role can bury you. It is one of the hardest things. And I know this because I live it. It's not because I don't live it. I just, over the years, I've figured out ways to deal with it. But it doesn't, that reality is if you have a small business or you're responsible for the sales role and you're out there, you're taking hit after hit after hit. Like, yeah, there's wins, it's good, and the thrill of it is wonderful, but the role has a level of super loneliness, even for very connected people. So
yeah, that's where I met you, Ezra. You know, in my loneliness.
While I was doing hot seat coaching?
No, it wasn't so hot, but I'm just saying.
We should have warmed up the seat. I should define what hot seat coaching is. I just realized I'm saying hot seat coaching. Hot seat coaching is when we're sitting around the table or around the room with a group of people and someone throws a question out there and we could coach real time and they get the benefit of the whole group. By the way, even if the group doesn't throw in their answers, the energetic support, the cheering on, the Nasias Ba'ol, the Chaverschaft that happens.
Leaders did this all through the ages. They would sit together.
We're wired for connections, us human beings.
Yeah, there's money being made right behind us.
And
just
we
from
have
us sitting together.
And we have an epidemic of loneliness. The more hyper-connected the world gets, that's a whole separate thing. I know, Ellie, I told you, this is only part one. The hyper-connected world that we're living in, right? I'm saying this to a social media influencer, but I'm aware. The hyper-connected social media type world is creating an epidemic of loneliness.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody wrote this, I don't know where I saw it, that the part of the challenge is, besides all the neurochemistry that gets messed up by the blings and blings and schlings,
the dopamine,
the competitions and stuff. Somebody said all day long he's on social media seeing what he was not invited to. I thought, oh, poor soul. You're not supposed to be invited to most of that stuff.
Right.
You know, they didn't invite him to the Photoshop shoot.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Very nice.
Ellie, this is great. Go. Thank you.
Yeah. Finishing off with the last question, which you said, you don't believe in hustle culture.
Ooh.
You believe in, I follow you, man. And by the way, I'm going to say this to the audience. If you enjoy this podcast, please go and search on Spotify, Ezra Max, and you'll see another few podcasts that he recently did. Also, you can follow him on LinkedIn, and that's where you can also get in touch with him. But you mentioned you don't believe in hustle culture. You believe in developing, before you work on a business and all these things, developing your own personal skills. And I that rings very much truth to my ears.
I lived hustle culture. I lived it.
Wow, I didn't know that. For how many years?
Enough, on and off. I am a recovering adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
I had multiple things going on simultaneoly. I worked days and nights.
But then you noticed, and I have a very good metaphor. I think you're gonna like this. We're both sitting at a bar mitzvah tonight, and we see the main course is starting to happen. Now, one person chooses, I don't know why I chose us for this example, because it's going to mess up two people over here. But one person, I'm going to say who, chooses...
Ich dachte, whose bar mitzvah was it? Where did it happen? Who's the spieler? What kind of entree is it? What kind of food is he about to tell me about? Okay. There's so many questions. See, this is what happens with the visionary.
Well, listen, I'm telling you, it's a good one.
I want to hear it.
You're going to love it. Both people are extremely hungry. They got just late because of the podcast. Both person want the main course.
Yeah.
One person sits at a seat because he knows the waiter they are going to give them an attitude if they. The other person is so hungry he gets up and waits by the kitchen for the portion. He doesn't see a portion by the kitchen because he sees the waiter took the tray out there at the corner. to the table. So he goes to the port.
Yeah.
But by the time he finishes with his portion, he comes back to the table, seeing that Ezra Max is already sitting and enjoying his main course. I said, life is the exact same. You either go chasing and running and hustling for what you want, or you sit in one place and you say, Hashem, I know that everything that I need, you can bring it me right now.
Yeah.
That shidduch, that job opportunity,
Yeah.
the money,
Yeah.
the health,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. There's a lot to say. We could come back and talk about hustle culture, just hustle culture. I think it's such an important thing.
Yeah.
The people who promote hustle culture are almost connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's such a weird thing. When you dig into it, you really get... I wrote a song about hustle. I went to Lipa 4 years ago. I said, I have a whole song, lyrics. I wrote it out. And I said, Lipa, could you make me a song about this? And a mazel he didn't, because I'd be super embarrassed if that would have been produced. And when I look back, when I reflect on it, I realized that it was such a mistake. And I was even coming at it that do your hishtadlus. That's what I meant when I was talking about it. But the truth, the Metzias is that we got to do commensurate hishtadlus. That for sure we have to do.
Yeah.
But this hustle culture is negating Hashem working in the world.
Wow.
We're taking too much bias. We're taking too much ownership.
And this goes for relationship, this goes for life, for everything.
For
Just
anything you want to do.
learn that kitoiv. Life is beautiful.
Yeah, work on normal, customary, just a little bit more hishtadlus, and daven, and give tzedakah, and do chesed, and manage your life, and you'll see results will come in different ways. Because I was in corporate sales for many years.
Yeah. And you teach that to your clients also? To
Always,
live?
100%. 100%.
Relax.
My biggest deal I got for the company,
Yeah.
not only did it come from the one client I never went to visit. This is a great story.
Yeah.
Talk about hustle culture. I was responsible for a territory, the Northeast and part of the Midwest. I was on a plane every week, every other week. For 4 days, I was jumping around. And there was a guy in Philadelphia, a rep. And he worked for a manufacturer, and I worked with this manufacturer. And all the reps, I'd go with them, I'd go to their customers. We had the same customer, and I would be busy with them. He wouldn't let me talk to his customers. He says, I know what you have, I know what you do. When I have a deal, we'll talk. And he got a Fortune 100 or Fortune 50 company to be a possible client. Wow. And the only thing he needed me was to help with the pricing. That's it, all he wanted from me. Wow. So here I was, flying to St. Louis, to Cleveland, to Atlanta. I was all over the country. And the biggest deal in the company that happened in Philadelphia from a rep that I never went to. I don't even know that client. I never met the client. Wow. Nothing to do. Number one story. Number two story. I left that company. It was after September 11, and I left. I decided I'm going into. I didn't even know what I was doing yet, but I knew I was heading towards something else, working with teens, working in the cloud, doing something meaningful. Because another $1 million in telecom sales wasn't going to move the needle in terms of the world. It was a real inside question of what does the Abishta want from me. Right. I left the company. They called me and they said, we need you to manage 2 accounts, please. We're going to pay you a consulting fee. I left. Wow. And they paid me after I left the company. Right. Hustle schmuscle, please. Just relax. The Eibush is in charge. But Shefer and Himmel, we love you. Exactly. We want to take care of your world. We want to do good things. Beautiful. It's good.
Ezra Max, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Check out EzraMax.com, Ezra Max on LinkedIn. My personal suggestion is just type in Ezra Max on Spotify. You'll see another few interesting podcasts that he did recently. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please remember to subscribe, enjoy, share, like, comment, leave a review. It just helps out the podcast and helps other people finding it as well. Thank you, everybody. Good luck.